be in His presence. Amen. Well, does anyone have a testimony you want to share with us this evening before we get too far into the lesson tonight? Does anybody love the Lord tonight? Somebody say amen.
Amen.
I don't know how many of us enjoy being interrupted, but the lesson tonight is going to be dealing with that fact, and so we're going to be talking about a God who interrupts. And I think we need to say amen to that, because His interruptions are usually for our benefit. Amen. But let me read to you before we get into the lesson tonight what's coming up in this lesson. It says here, our goal in this series of Bible studies is to explore what it means to live a holy life. That search has taken us from the original sin in the garden to a lonely hill called Calvary and an empty tomb which could not hold our Lord. We have rejoiced in the victory that is ours in Christ. Along the way, we have discovered that the Christian life is neither like a scientific experiment nor a mathematical formula. It is alive, dynamic, and changing because it is personal and intertwined with human experiences. In the previous chapter, we saw how the internal battle can be won. In the present chapter, we will explore what that victory means to our relationship with God and the people around us. And so that's where we're at tonight in our study for a hunger for God, and a God who interrupts as our lesson title for tonight. Our scripture focus, of course, I shared with you last time, is going to be 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and chapter 6, mainly verses 16 through 19 of chapter 5 and 14 through 18 in chapter 6. And in this lesson, hopefully we'll be able to probe how our relationship with God and with others change as we become new persons through the saving, sanctifying power of grace that God has for us. And hopefully be able to discuss some ways that you and I can build that new understanding into our lives and make it relevant in our world today. The writer gives us a poem who is author Arthur Hugh Cloud, C-L-O-U-G-H, Cloud. Anyhow, here's what that poem says. It says, "This world is very odd, we see. We can't comprehend it. But in one fact, we all agree, God won't, and we can't mend it." Do you agree or disagree that closed poetry reflects the mood of the day? Do you agree that this world is very odd, you see? We can't comprehend it, but in one fact we all agree, God won't, we can't mend it. I mean, God could change it, right? But He's already given us what's going to happen in our right? I mean, it's coming to an end. Do you agree with that poem or not? I mean, don't we wish we could really change some things? But we can't. I mean, isn't that what's going on in our country today? Isn't that what's going on in the political world, especially today? You know, we want things to change. We want all these things, but we can't. It's a heart condition. It's not things. You know, it's not a weapon. It's not. It's the heart of the person. 9/11, we should have understood that. It doesn't take a gun to kill someone. And it's strange out there. We can't comprehend it. But one thing for sure, you and I can't change it. And it doesn't look like God will, unless His people who are called by His name would turn from their wicked way, seek His face, turn from their wicked way. And so, you know, agree or disagree, we are living in some very trying times. Have you ever, and I guess a good definition would go good here. Have you ever encountered cynicism in your life lately? Now, a simple definition of it is cynical believes that people are generally selfish and dishonest. Someone who does cutting remarks, maybe scornful, bitterly mocking attitude or a comment. Have you ever talked to somebody who, you know, mocked you or, you know, made a smart bitterly comment to you? I just heard here the other day someone, you know, I said something and boom, they come back with a smart remark. You know what I'm saying? But it's in our world today. We use the classic question that separates the pessimist from the optimist, and you probably have heard it said, or even said it yourself. You know, you take a glass and you ask the question: do you see the glass as half empty or half full? You know, if you see it half empty, you're probably a pessimist. If you see it half full, you're optimistic. So, and that's the way it seems to be in our lives today. It's difficult to be around those who are always critical, always cynical, always putting us down, always seeing the glass half empty. It's difficult to sometimes be around those individuals, and so a phrase that I want us to think about tonight that's in the lesson. It's a phrase. Well, that's the wrong slide, that's for sure. But anyhow, it's a phrase that God the aggressor. Do you think that God's aggressive? Do you consider or look at God as being an aggressor? How do you react? Yeah, I forgot to change slides there, PK, so don't put them slides up there. How do we react to the statement that God the aggressor? Okay. She said, God is given us free will, so how can He be aggressor? Someone else.
think sometimes he might be blessed because he foresees what we're headed for and he's gonna.
He doesn't give up on us.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, yes and yes, right? I mean, he is both those in my opinion. I mean, he's a perfect gentleman. He's not going to knock us over the head, but he is going to give us opportunities for him to interrupt our lives, right? To intervene, to step in and say, hey, wake up, dummy. You know, you're going down the wrong path, Toby. You need to wake up. And so he does, in that sense, is an aggressor. And you know, and we got to thank God for that. A lot of us, at least, need to thank God for that, because where would some of us be if he hadn't woke us up and had given up on us? I mean, could you imagine if he had given up on us and the Holy Spirit quit pricking our hearts and quit convicting our hearts?
I think he's an aggressor in the way of instruction-wise too. You know, he tells you a certain way you got to do this, or there's going to be
Consequences.
Consequences.
Let me read you a story here, and I really like this story here. One Sunday morning, a man watched a young lad walking down the road. The boy sniffed some flowers, kicked the sand, tossed a stone in his hands, and stopped to watch a bird fly by. As the boy passed nearby, the man asked, "Where have you been, Sonny?" "To Sunday school." "What do you do there?" "Oh, we talk about God." "Huh," said the man. "I'll give you a quarter if you could tell me where God is." The little boy replied to him. He said, "Well, I'll give you $1 if you can tell me where God ain't." That's good. Amen. That's good. Isaiah, man, did I get the right lesson here, PK? I'm going to have to look this up. So somebody might need to help me here. Isaiah 55. Might have to start looking up some scripture too tonight. If I didn't had too much going on this week. Anyhow, Isaiah 55 verse 8 and 9 says this: "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are my ways, nor are your ways my ways." Get it right. "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor your ways my ways, says the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." You see, God, my friend, and it's what we got to understand. God is a God that is nothing like us. He's a God that is not like the world's ways. Amen? His ways are not like our ways. He himself has a different perspective on things than you and I do. So if God's perspective is different than our perspective, then what do you think is meant by the phrase, a worldly point of view? what is meant then by a worldly point of view? Have you ever heard of a Christian view and a worldly point of view? So what is the worldly point of view? When we talk about a worldly point of view,
God's not involved in the world.
okay? Yeah. Well, look at society today. I mean, we've been talking about a lot of it here lately, but lifestyle, okay? Abortion. The world thinks it's okay, you know? All these things that we've been talking about, that's a worldly point of view. You know, when they were talking about, you know, murdering a baby outside the mother's womb, that's a worldly point of view. But God's point of view is different. It's higher. It's His ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts are not His thoughts. And so from God's perspective, these things are completely different than what we're seeing lived out in our world today. Let me ask you this, and this starts to get a little bit personal here. Do you think prejudice is something that is automatically taken from us when we become a Christian? Do we automatically go from being prejudiced to non-prejudiced when we become a Christian? Takes time, it should. Is this a learned thing or is it a nature thing? You've heard the term nurture or nature, right? Being prejudiced is a nurture thing. It's how we're raised. It's what we're taught. It's something that can be ingrained in us. If we have a true experience with Christ, and I don't think, Mike, if I've been raised in a Christian family and that might be evident, I think that experience would change I would understand if I knew how Jesus lived his life. But if I was ignorant to all this stuff about Christ and I just came to know him in a crusade of some sort, okay? And I grew up in maybe in the deep South or even here in some West Virginia. And that has been ingrained in me. God changes the nature, not the nurture automatically. The nature change, which would then allow me, as I read his word, to see this is wrong. And we would that's how I see it. And so being entirely sanctified even doesn't change the nurture. Paul, think about Paul for a minute. How was Paul in his nature or his nurture for God? He was trained in the Word. He was a very educated man. He was he was part of the religious sect. He was on fire for God when the Christians came and started blaspheming his God and his opinion. He was out to get him, right? He was going to do anything he could do. But when Christ got a hold of him, right, it changed him, because then Christ showed him that these Christians that he was persecuting. So it takes that experience to happen to us, to want us to where we want to change and follow things God's way. But the zealousness, how Paul was raised, how he was still as zealous for doing the things of Christ as he was before going against the Christians.
If you were trying to please God, God wouldn't prejudice.
Well, God's not. No, exactly.
So how can we be prejudiced? I mean, He could have let us be born color, Chinese, or whatever.
But prejudice is a learned thing. And when God saves us, He doesn't necessarily take away what we learned. He changes our nature, not our nurture. And so somebody who's saved doesn't necessarily mean that they're still not got prejudices in them. Does that make sense? Because it's something they learn. Okay? Because I mean it's not necessarily skin colors. We're talking any kind of prejudice.
That's something God can deliver you from.
He can deliver you from. Exactly. But it's a nurture thing. We've got to understand. They talk about some of the mental illnesses. You know, when I was working as a chaplain in the hospital, and you look at it today, some psychologists and psychiatrists, they'll say that's a nature thing. Some of them says no, it's a nurture thing. You know, somebody's continually to be demeaned and abused and mistreated all their life. It can lead to mental illness. Depression can come in a person's life, but also it can be something that is part of our nature. That run, you know, you've heard about things that run in the family, you know, that type of thing. And so, how do we as Christians handle the biases? How do we, as Christians, how do we react to when we find out this isn't God's way? Going back to what you said, Darlene. Not everybody knows the Bible and knows God's way. Listen to me. This is hard to believe, maybe, but there's people out there that don't even know Jesus Christ and who He is in our world today. They're ignorant. Exactly. And so, as a born-again person, how do we, as Christians, what are some specific biases that Christians should retain? But on the same hand, how do we handle those biases? How do we, how do we, when we find out that they're different, God's ways are different than what our ways are, what do we do? We change, right? He's not going to change. We've got to get in line with what He says. We've got to get rid of the bias. We have to get rid of the prejudice. And so we ask God to remove that way of life in our hearts and our lives. Are there some biases that we should keep, retain? Got you thinking tonight, don't it? When I looked at that question, I'm thinking of biases like we've been talking about in our Sunday morning messages on the Sermon on the Mount. One man, one woman as being the right relationship. Isn't that a sort of a bias? I mean, that's the Christian view. And so we have to be biased in that, where we don't accept the worldview of it. We've got to stand on what's right. Amen? We got to, and all these relationships on abortion, we should be biased against abortion. Somebody look up bias, the word bias. BIAS. if you got your phone or Google or something, Google that for me. Let's get a good definition of that. Going to this question, those of you that are still with me, other than looking up that definition, in your opinion, why do people find it hard to accept God's view, that God's view might be different from theirs? Okay. We've got a concept, right? We've got a way of going back to the way we were raised, right? Certain way we were raised, then even in the churches, you know, some have been taught that you don't need the Old Testament, just throw it away, basically. Some have been taught, you know, no music in your singing, you know. Some have been taught all kinds of different things, right? But when we find out that our ways are different from God's way, what do? Why do people find it hard to accept those things when they find out God's way is the right way? Why is it so hard to change our view? Or somebody find that word yet? Huh? Give me a definition of it here.
Prejudice in favor of or against one thing, a person, or a group compared with another, usually in a way considered to be unfair.
Okay. So basically I can be biased against marriages outside of God's will, right? I mean, from that definition, for or against. So bias is a stance that we take either as a worldview or a God's view. That makes sense? I mean, and so we should be biased in God's view in what His Word says. But going back to this, why do people find it hard to accept God's way? Why is it they don't want to change their thinking? Have you seen people like that? Stubborn, right? You've got to show me. You can't just tell me. You've got to show me. And those are the difficult people to have their lives interrupted, if you will, and God intervene in their life. You see, when God sent His Son into this world, He did what human beings have found so hard to do, and that is to forgive past wrongdoings and restore relationships. Biases and prejudices can destroy relationships. Families can be destroyed. But God was willing to forgive. I mean, His only Son, guys, to people who, turned their backs on Him. You know, to where only one family was found righteous in the sight of God, to where He destroyed the whole world. And in the midst of it, He could have ended it all right there. In fact, there's a scripture that says God was sorry He even created man. So, He found a way to send His Son in the midst of all that we're talking about tonight. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17 through 19. Someone read that for us this evening.
Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation.
passed away, behold, all things have become new. Now all things are of God, who has reconciled us to himself through Jesus Christ, and has given us the ministry of reconciliation.
Sorry, Gene. For some reason it's slow tonight.
That is, that God was in Christ
Reconciling.
the world to himself, not in, I can't read it very well, giving those transgressors to him, and has commanded to us the word of reconciliation.
Okay. Thank you, Gene. What was the theme in those verses? Did you get it? Let me go back to them. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, I heard 4 or 5 times. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. Now, all things are of God, who has what? Reconciled us to himself through Jesus Christ, and has given to us the ministry of reconciliation. And that is that God was in Christ reconciling the world to himself, not imputing their trespasses to them, and has committed to us the word of 4 times we see the word reconciliation. And so the theme in those verses is reconciliation. What does reconciliation mean in scriptures, in these scriptures? What does it mean? Bringing together. The author puts it in a paraphrase like this: God was hugging the world to himself in Christ. It only happened because of Christ. That could only take place because of Christ. He could only bring us back together because of Christ. But in essence, because of Christ, God was reaching out to the world and hugging them. But I mean, that's just a simple way of describing what those scriptures are saying. Other than God in your life, other than what He's done for you, do you have any examples that illustrates that concept in your life? Have you ever had a relationship that was broken and you were able to reconcile it, or somebody reconciled themselves to you, that you would want to share tonight? It's powerful, is it not, for a relationship to be I mean, how many times have we heard or seen families? You know, the Hatfields and McCoys. How come they started feud? They probably didn't know, most of them. Okay, they just, by name, you're a Hatfield, you're my enemy. Right? Isn't a lot of family problems or feuds, if you will? You can't remember why you even got mad at one another. And so reconciliation is something that interrupts a person's life and changes things when it's done right. I mean, people who have, we've got a good friend that was just reconciled with his real dad here, about a year and a half ago. And it's changed his life. You know, he never knew his real dad. And it changed his life. It interrupted the way he was living and going and brought something good into his life. Someone read, well, let me do it this way. Look up 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21 for me. Everyone. 2 Corinthians 5:21. want you to read it to yourselves. And I want you to take a few moments. And just like the author of our lesson paraphrased that verse 19 of saying that God was hugging the world to himself in Christ, I want you to take chapter 5, verse 21, and I want you to paraphrase that. Either write it down or get it in your mind. I want you to be able to paraphrase that verse so you could tell your lost friends what that verse meant, or maybe a 9-year-old, that they can understand that verse. Okay? So take a few moments, think about it. Someone have it? Somebody give me a stab at it. Come on. Mike?
Well, the way I look at it, he giving all the sin of the world, to take the sin away from us, and give them all the sin. We can be with them and have relations with God.
Okay. Someone else?
So, that all the sin of the world, that sin, you yourself call it. But the whole world.
God brought down Jesus, who had no sin, but we who sin can come to him asking for forgiveness so that we can become forgiven.
Okay. Anyone else? You know what I thought of when I first read that first part? For he made him who knew no sin to be sin. I thought of the baby Jesus. I mean, I just looked at this verse tonight, guys. I didn't think about what I would think or say, but the innocence of a baby. Amen. They're adorable. They're cute. They bring joy to your life. He put what all you've done wrong on that little baby so that you can be restored into a relationship with God the Father. It's almost like the lamb, right? We know that Jesus is referred to as a lamb, but lambs are so innocent, are they not? They're such an innocent animal. They just graze and they go about their business. But it took that lamb who knew no wrong to have all the wrong of the world put on him, that we might be restored to a relationship with God. That's powerful. Amen. We can't fathom that in our little finite minds. And though salvation is a free gift of God's grace, it does not come without responsibility. when we say, yes, Lord, yes, and give our lives to Him, we have a responsibility. We have a job to do. And it's given to us by God in that passage where we read. He's given us the job of reconciliation. Did you catch that in that verse? I'm not going to go back to it, but well. Not imputing their trespasses to them, and has committed to us the word of reconciliation. That to me, guys, that to me is saying that we've got to make people understand what Christ done for them. And that we've got to do everything that we can to reconcile people to God. And to be reconciled to God may put us out of step with the world. Right? Because we can't change some biases. We've got to stand on what a marriage is. We've got to stand on what life is and when it begins. And all the things that God's Word teaches us. We've got to stand on God's Word. And so that tension can raise some tough questions in our lives. So one of them is how Christian should we be at home? Think about that for a moment. How Christian should we be at home? Around people who know us really, really, really well. They know all of our shortcomings. We can't wear the Halloween costume, if you will, at home, because they know who we are. And not only at home, but a lot of times people know us at work. Sunday's messages, it's not getting any easier for me on Sunday messages here lately. I maybe shouldn't have picked this, left that Sermon on the Mount alone. But how Christian should we be at work? And maybe the most difficult one, because this is the one that can really get us. How Christian should we be in social times with friends? Oh, it's just a social thing. You know what I'm saying? And so, how Christian should we be? If we're going to reconcile the world, and this is going to be it's even part of my message, so if we're going to reconcile the world to God, our best witness is what we say and live and do. Amen? Not necessarily as much as what we say, but what we do. So what guidelines can we follow to find answers to these questions? Where do I go to find answers of how Christian should I be? Or how should I live my life? Or how do this is, remember, we're studying a hunger for God, right? If you're hungry, if you get a hunger for God, you're wanting to live your life in such a way that He's always pleased with you. Amen? Would you agree with that tonight? And as we study going back to what Darlene was saying earlier, if we study God's Word and we see that, how we treat our fellow brothers and sisters, or how we treat our fellow human beings, or if God shows me an error in my life that I need changed, do I just neglect that and go about my way and be stubborn and hard-headed and say, I'm going to continue down my way, even though your ways are better than mine, Lord, even though your ways are higher than mine, Lord, I'm going to stay with what I've learned. I'm going to stay with what I've known. When we hunger for God, blessed are those who what? Hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Okay, and so that should be our desire to be. And what guidelines can we follow? Well, this is where I believe the importance of daily devotions, the importance of Bible reading, and support and counsel from one another, coming together and studying God's Word in small groups and so forth and so on. But having that close Christian friendship that we can share with one another without feeling afraid that somebody's going to say something about what we've shared with. When we share intimate things with each other, they need to stay with us and be praying for that individual. What can you do to change your attitudes and or actions? Once again, I think that's going back to the scripture of reading what God's Word and understanding God's what He says to us. Try to get to the end here. Let me read verses 19 and 20 to you in closing here tonight. That is, that God, well, I know that's in here. That God was reconciling the world to Himself in Christ, not counting people's sins against them, and has committed to us the message of reconciliation. We are therefore Christ's ambassadors, as though God were making His appeal through us. That's strong words. We implore you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God. Be reconciled to God. And so, you and I, we've got to find ways to reconcile those in our world to Christ. And we've got to look for opportunities and always be looking for a way to do that, so people's lives can be interrupted by a God who loves them and has given His life for them. Let me just close with this. The story is told of an aged man who was always seen with a can of oil sticking out of his pocket. Everywhere he went, he oiled squeaky doors, stubborn gates, rusty hinges, and sticky latches. People thought he was odd and obsessed, but he continued to oil all the hard places, making life easier for those who came after him. This old man exemplifies Christ's plan for us. He intends for us to carry on his ministry of reconciliation, using the oil of kindness to lubricate the hard and hurting spots in people's lives and point them to him. I don't know about you, but I hate squeaky doors. And thank the Lord for WD-40 and the likes. But thank God for those who were in the business of helping reconcile me to the Lord. Somebody was in the business for you as well. Amen. Somebody cared enough to share Christ in some manner to you. And here we are tonight because of that. And I say what? Thank God. Amen. Thank God for those who were obedient and helping bring us to the Lord. Any thoughts? I know it was a lot thrown at you, and I'm sorry for the slides. I don't know what I did wrong there, but like I said, it started Sunday actually. It's not let up on me. Any thoughts or questions? Well, it doesn't, I don't want to say that, it doesn't get easier, but it gets more challenging as we go. We're going to talk about a word that we've mentioned a few times here recently that we don't really talk a lot about in our Christian walk, and that is the word discipline. It's something that we need to have in our lives if we're going to live a holy life. Hebrews chapter 11, 39 through 12:14 is where we'll be looking at. So Hebrews is a wonderful, wonderful book. Of course, I can say that about all of them, I guess. But anyhow, it's a good book. So you might want to just start at the beginning and work your way through it. It's not a very large book, but it would give you a good understanding of what the writer is coming and saying about in that. All hearts clear? Father, we thank you for this evening, and we thank you for your word, and Lord, how your ways are different than ours. When we talk about a worldview and we talk about a Christian view, we need to stand up for the things of God. We need to be obedient to your word and to your ways. Whatever that takes in our lives. And we pray right now that you would continue not only to interrupt those who are sinners, Lord, but interrupt our way of life if we're going down an area that's not pleasing to you. That we might learn more from you, be the man, the woman, the boy, the girl that is pleasing in your sight. Go with us from our service tonight in traveling mercies. Be with us through the rest of the week. And Lord, may we just come back Sunday morning prepared to hear from you and to worship and to lift you up. For it's in your Son's Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Go with God and you'll never go wrong. Shake hands with one another and you may be dismissed.
You.